a post that was going around from Nick Huber. We'll only spend a few minutes on this one. But so Nick Huber drops this on X. He says, these pictures were taken in Austin, Texas during business hours. If this is your work from home schedule, I have terrible news for you. There are people in the Philippines and Latin America who can do your job better than you for $5 an hour and work 60 hours a week, no complaints. And with AI, their English is better than yours. It is worst case scenario for you and your $200K liberal arts degree. American companies are learning they can get 3 times the productivity for 20% the cost. 80% of my workforce is in Latin America and the Philippines. It is a business cheat code and is about to change everything for remote workers. If you aren't making decisions, leading people, selling something, or generally adding a ton of value to your company, these people are coming for you and your job. There's 2 pictures here of some people in Austin, Texas, midday, a bunch of young folks getting their suntan on.
So my only caveat to that is Austin has a huge university. So we don't know that those aren't just university people. I also saw another funny post using the same picture that said,
"Oh, really?"
That said, I as an intern at a private equity firm, my job is to go and ask these people where they work, and then we turn around and we bet against them. We bet against them. But he's not wrong, though.
Yeah, the principle.
The principle is there, and so those work from home culture, this idea that I should be paid a certain amount because I went and got this degree and yada yada, is going to be majorly disrupted. I'm calling it labor arbitrage. It's happening in Latin America. It's happening in the Philippines. It's happening in India.
Oh, yeah.
So I know software engineering, there's some great engineers in Latin America that speak English as well. And if not, there's some good translators in place to kind of help that process.
I look at millennials and some of Gen Z, and I create this dichotomy, which I think he's getting at, which is like, there's this desire for leisure, right. And not leisure in the sense of I need to be relaxing, but leisure in the sense of I want the eradication of difficulty.
Yeah.
Whereas, some of our more competitive compadres on other sides of the world are thinking about productivity. And inherently in productivity is that grind, that strain, that work, that effort to be productive.
As well as this goes back to what we're talking about. It's the end of a cycle. Right. This is what happens.
Right. So while we want that leisure piece, you got to go through the productive times of effort and decades of that. Everyone has had to do that. Correct. You get that. Warren Buffett made it at 60, right? Right. And then he could have went and did that. Trump is a billionaire now. He could have, that I think that's the thing that strikes me: leisure versus being actually productive and putting forth effort. So, shout out to Nick Huber.
Well, and then transition off of that. Then you don't have to worry about stuff like we're talking about in the next segment.
This piece here. So, comes by way of Fox News. It says companies are beefing up emotional salary, in quote, to address today's disengaged workers
and their inability to pay them a fair wage.
The article leads off, over 75% of the global workforce is neither engaged or actively disengaged at work, according to a recent report commissioned by Gallup, and it's costing the world a whopping $8.9 trillion annually. And as this data demonstrates, boosting employee engagement isn't an easy feat, and some employment analysts are noting that companies are now building up emotional salary to increase employee engagement and productivity. But what is emotional salary, and how is it impacting the workforce? Well, let's just define it. Emotional salary includes the non-monetary aspects of a job, such as culture, career, and work-life balance. An employee's emotional salary is the measure of whether they feel rewarded beyond base pay, said Caitlin Nobes, head of workforce research based out of Canada. Emotional salary is completely separate from monetary compensation, which is needed to meet foundational needs for safety and security. Employee morale is a vital aspect to productivity. Employees who feel their efforts and work go unnoticed are in turn more likely to underperform, disengage, and eventually quit. Another important component of employee engagement is recognition. Something as simple as recognition is an investment in emotional salary can shift this narrative. Frequent and meaningful recognition is a critical driver of emotional salary, increasing a sense of belonging, engagement, and productivity, and lowering the risk of turnover. I won't keep reading, but that's essentially what they're getting at. How do we do things that create a sense of belonging, engagement, productivity, and lower the risk of turnover in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is only really relevant in large corporations.
Yeah, right.
So large companies, I mean, the majority of companies out there have less than 100 employees. So it's funny how they use this to set the trend, but I think most people are waking up to the fact that it's actually really awesome to go work for a small to medium-sized enterprise.
Yeah.
And actually have a relationship with the owner and the people and be involved in each other's life and give up a little bit of the corporate, benefits package
Yeah.
to get a higher degree of relationship, because your work is where you spend most of your time. And so if you're not loving that, you're not loving the people that you're working with, then yeah, this kind of stuff is probably necessary. That said, if you are a small to medium sized business owner and you can supply this type of stuff, say, hey, we're going to pick a charity and we're all going to go do work on it, or we're going to contribute to it or something like that, that carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. And for me, I just want a little quick is that when I read this stuff, you know what I really think? I think it just points out the actual leadership crisis in America.
Agreed.
Because, some of this stuff, if we're talking about all this belonging, engagement, productivity, and lowering risk, like that's all people stuff.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, you're not going to buy someone's loyalty. Like you're not going to, they leave people. And so you're a poor leader and the people under you are leading poorly too. And because there's plenty of people out there who don't have these problems.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about. It's the relationship side of management, right? There's the structural side when you get into large organizations, but the relationship side is what is often missed, right? Yeah. You can structurally be above somebody and still not have a relationship with them.
True. Well, and people confuse management and leadership. They confuse leadership being in the title you have. And dude, at the end of the day, leadership is, serving vision and, doing things for the sake of those whom you are responsible for.
Leadership is servitude.
Yeah, media has created a lot of different images for us of what we think leadership is. It's always making the decision. And it's like, no, that ain't really what it is always. We know that having children and wives, like, hey, wife, we're going there. We're doing, no, it ain't, that's not leadership. Yeah. So anyways.
Cool. So, well, let's end on this. This is one of my favorite coaches of all time.
Mike Tomlin here with the video to close us down. 1 minute here. His message ultimately is, it's not what you are capable of. It's what you are willing to do. Shout out to all of you American entrepreneurs who are grappling with that. It's not what you're capable of, but what you're willing to do and do long term.
Well, and real quick, for those people who have college degrees that are currently coming out, that's the gap.
Yeah.
Nobody cares that you have a college degree.